Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the Ad Free Shows, Podcast Heat, and Wrestling According to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That guy right there, coming to us via satellite, is the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. What's going on, my man? How's your, as we tape this, your Thursday going? You've been cross-country, going back and forth here. It's been a lot for you, hasn't it?
Been a lot of travel, yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Alba. To you, it's still morning here. Technically, we're 3 hours time difference, but no, it has been good. It's been a very good week for TNA Wrestling. Tonight we're live. We're going to be live at 10 Eastern, and I think they're specifically doing that, so it'll be live across the country. It'll be live here at 7 Pacific time. It's going to be live everywhere, and it's going to be pretty cool because live content is what everybody wants, and we are hell-bent on finding a new television platform, and that's something that they're working really hard on right now. Big props, big kudos to the boss, Carlos, because he's working really tirelessly on that.
Love to see that for you. We got a lot going on. You had a crazy TNA pay-per-view this past weekend, Rebellion, and there were a lot of headlines that came out of that. This week's episode is a bit of a unique one, Matt. I don't know if you've heard, but sometimes people refer to you as the TLC GOATs. Them Hardy boys. That's what the rumor and innuendo on the streets is.
Yeah, and better than nothing.
Better than nothing. And everyone was talking about the TLC match that was on Smackdown this past week.
Right.
They said it was a show stealer. It should have been on WrestleMania, etc. The caveat
it was people were praising it. It was heavily praised, if I'm not mistaken, right?
The caveat here is that you nor I have seen the match yet. Until today, because we are going to do a little tape study and break this match down. You're going to have the TLC GOAT, Matt Hardy, break down a TLC match right here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, and I think that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I love it. I'm excited to see it for the very first time. With green eyes.
Yes, because it's very valuable. I'm sure you get a lot of young wrestlers who come up to you asking for advice and what they should do. And you've put together more ladder matches than probably any wrestler on the planet other than maybe your brother. And so as a result of that, you're going to be able to instill some wisdom on the masses. And I can't wait to watch this match with you because it's a match that you have no part of putting together. And I'm going to hear how critical you are with it and how complimentary you are. And I'm really looking forward to that. So we're going to have some fun here.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. That should be very fun.
3 great teams, too, and we'll get into that. Let's hit on some headlines, though, before we get into all of the fun here. Glad to see that you're settling down. You've got TNA. There was a lot of discourse talking about high flying and aerials and all that stuff. There was a 6-way match for the TNA X Division Championship on Rebellion this past week. And Leon Slater did his incredible Swanton 450 off one of the trusses that leads to the X at the top. He took a hard landing, Matt, a very hard landing. And a lot of people in wrestling have been critical of how the actual move itself was executed from the people on the ground. You're someone who's jumped off plenty of things in his day. What went right here? What went wrong? What was your take on all that? Because I know both you and Jeff are big Leon Slater fans as is, and you certainly don't want to see him get hurt.
He's our guy. Whenever he landed and went through the whole pile, they're like, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I'm okay. I'm a Hardy boy. That was what he said. He's a Hardy boy. We've accepted him into the family, no doubt. So a couple things. Those things are tricky. That thing was so high. I mean, it was outrageously high. And the fact that he was doing that, where he was doing that 450, there's so much momentum behind that. And for him to go down and hit as hard as he did, it really was, it was a miracle that he didn't get injured in some way. So I know he was beat up. He was super sore. I actually talked to him a little bit last night whenever I got in and arrived here. But looking back at it, I would have liked to see, if I would have been there, if I would have been in the scenario, I would have probably have tried to designate a couple guys, maybe. You had guys, everybody was kind of reaching out. Here's the tough thing. The tough thing about that scenario, when you have those multiple guys, so there's 5 guys down there, right? And, or were they even more than that? How many guys were down there? Was it only 6 guys in the match? Is that right?
Yeah, but AJ Francis was on the outside too because there were more than 5 guys.
Yeah. So there's 6 guys down there. And sometimes when a guy's coming, like people don't want to like hit someone else to like bump into each other and knock them out of the way. So that is kind of tricky. And you see how like there were several people kind of reach their arms in to like try and get them and do whatever else. But those things are just tough because if guys just try and run into each other and you don't really designate who is going to spot the person, catch the person, that makes it tough. If I would have been in that scenario, I would have probably said and suggested, look, two strongest guys here are AJ Francis and Moose. Let's put these guys down. That's where Leon aimed towards them. Everybody else kind of be around. If you can help, great. But like let those two be together as a wall and stop his momentum as much as possible. And also on top of that, I wish there would have been a way that it could have seemed like more of a fight when it was going on, and you could have let Leon totally set and then execute the 450, the 450 swanton, because it was, there was a lot of, he was up there trying to get set and they were kind of looking at him and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I'm just happy that no one got hurt. And that spot made Leon a bigger star because everybody was talking about it. It was on ESPN, like it was across socials everywhere. I saw so many clips of that spot. And even though it wasn't picture perfect how we have liked to have had it, still that spot resonated. People got people talking about the guy who did it. And Leon Slater's his name is going to be on the tips of many more people's tongue because the spot and this insanity happened.
It did. And I like the point that you brought up about you want to see people fighting a little bit too, so you're not just so blatantly telegraphing everything.
Yeah, I mean that I mean, obviously I've been involved in so many ladder matches, Money in the Bank matches, whatever, where you have those scenarios where you have someone that's going to jump, but it's really important to not look like the other two people are just sitting there waiting on this person to leap and catch. It's so important to make the moment look organic, like you're out there you're fighting to overcome your opponent to win this match or get a ladder and climb, and then all of a sudden at the last second in your periphery, boom, there comes the guy and you knock down his momentum. So those things are tricky, but they're very important because if you can do that in a best case scenario, you keep everyone, you don't break anyone's escape of the context of a wrestling match. People are like, oh shit, we're fighting and this guy wiped him out. It's something that's really important to keep the consistency of a wrestling match. It's a real gritty fight.
Might I argue also, I think it's on the production team too, not just the TNA team. I'm saying in general, when you set up spots like this, I think it's on the production team to tell the home audience that you're not going to telegraph it as well. So go tight on the guys who are fighting on the outside. Don't even give them indication that Leon Slater's climbing up there. And then, 20 seconds before, 15 seconds before, that's when we first see him. But you're not also seeing the guys right underneath him as well. And then right as it's about to happen, put that scene together and, oh shit, this is about to go down. I think that's a very important thing too, because it does happen a lot where it just looks like guys are sitting around waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then bam, something happens. Can you think of any specific instances in any match you've been in where you've done something like what you suggested, where you designated someone to catch or designated certain talent to be in certain positions?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's been times where I'm just like, I'll 100% get in here, like aim towards me. I mean, I've done that a lot. And we were guys who would fly a lot when we were younger, obviously. So like we wished and hoped that people would be catching us. So like if a young guy or some other high flyer is going to dive out, I'll do all that I can to knock down their momentum, whatever it may be. I mean, that was the case with like, whenever we wrestled Fraxium, it was so funny because I remember the very first time, the first dive was going to be on me, I think, and then it was supposed to be a dive on Jeff, and then a dive on both of us, a dive on both of us. And it's funny, I was getting ready for the first dive, and here just comes Jeff rushing in, and he got there too, and knocked the guy down. I said, Jeff, you got to get back up. This is you again, So we did all that. The one thing that blew me away whenever Nathan jumped out of the ring on us, like we were at the edge of the mats where we thought we'd have room to step in and catch him, but he moved so fast and he jumped so hard. He like hit our shoulders and rolled off of them, landed on his feet, which was insane. I know whenever we caught Axiom when he was coming down from that moonsault, like we took him down as soft as he could possibly be taken down, So that was one of those things where I was like, I will definitely get under him. Jeff was all the way on him. Jeff had his body right underneath him, and I stuck my arm out and I was able to catch him and go down with him. I mean, that's the most recent time I can think about doing it. And Jeff was so excited. He was like, no, I'll get in, because Jeff's like that too. Jeff also wants to be caught because he does that stuff all the time still.
Can you think of a time where either you or Jeff did something akin to that and you weren't caught as you were supposed to be?
Yeah, there was an independent show that Jeff and I were doing, back in the day. This was probably 1997, right when we had heard we were going to get signed, and they told us like, hey, we're going to have something for you right towards the end. We were doing a deal with these two guys. It was at a motorbike rally. They had a wrestling show, and these guys, they were like bikers, was their whole gimmick. They were big, 340-pound guys, whatever. And we hadn't worked with them a lot. We didn't know them that well. And the place that we were wrestling was it was like solid clay, right? That's how rock hard clay is if it's dry on the ground.
Yeah,
that's
awful.
where it was. Yeah, it's so hard. And the guy said, well, I know you do all that high flying. Said, why don't you do a thing where, run, dive out of the ring and do a front flip on me, I'll catch you. And I remember telling Jeff, like, well, we have some pretty big things coming up. Maybe we could do something different there. Just we want to make sure that he's safe, because there was no padding outside. It was just that hard clay, which felt like concrete. And he said, oh, brother, he said, look at me. I'm big. Of course I'll catch you. Of course I'll catch you. And this ended up being a crazy story in hindsight. So Jeff runs and goes out, and Jeff was like, okay, well, we probably shouldn't do it. Matt, we do have some big stuff coming up. We knew we were going to get signed. We couldn't get hurt at this time, because if you get hurt, then that could maybe blow your whole deal, right, for signing with WWE. So he eventually talked Jeff into doing it. He just said, oh, come on, I'm going to catch you. Look at me. I'm 350 pounds. He said, how can you miss me? How can you miss me? And then Jeff ended up doing it. He ran and dove out, and this guy completely like sidestepped him, overhand. I don't think he did anything. And Jeff just smashed.
So he did that purposefully.
I mean, it almost felt like that in some ways. But maybe he didn't. Because he was like coming up, and then he like stepped to the side. I don't know. He either did it purposely or he was an idiot, one or the other. So then I'll never forget.
That's the story of everything in society today. They either did it purposefully or they're an idiot. Anyway,
and then after that, Jeff got up, and I could tell he was hurt. He's like, oh, and Jeff went and punted this guy in the ribs, the hardest I've ever seen him punt anybody. I mean, he like lifted him off the ground, and Jeff kicked him again twice, because Jeff was like hot. Right. And he was in pain, and he was hot. And then like Jeff rolled in, and he's like, fuck. Oh. You could tell he's just infuriated. And that guy came up and said, motherfucker, you trying to shoot? Come on. Let's go. And then Jeff was like circling the ring with him. And then Jeff was like, are you a professional? And, we're out here, and there's like 2,000 bikers out in the crowd. Right?
Yeah, you're screwed if something goes wrong.
and then Jeff's like, are you a professional? And he's like, come on, you want to fight? Let's fucking fight then. And then all of a sudden, Jeff rolled over by me, and Jeff just tagged me. I said, all right, man, I got it. And I said, look, chill. It's all good. Chill. And we're doing this. And like, we go to lock up, and this guy goes to swing at me, and he's big, and I'm super fast then. That's back when I was actually agile. I'm 18 years old or whatever.
Before the skills deteriorated. Gotcha.
Before my skills deteriorate. I'm probably 19. I'm 19, okay. Maybe 20. Yeah, I'm 20. I'm 20 at this time. So we do the thing. He swings, I duck, and I get behind him. I have him in a waist lock, and then I like nail him a couple times from behind. And then Jeff comes in while this guy's like bent over. I'm nailing him from behind a couple times, and Jeff drop kicks him in the side of the head, like right in the temple, like as hard as he could, a thrust kick, and that guy gets knocked out and down. And his partner comes in, like, and we're like square, like, what the fuck? And then we just called the match, and then we left there. And I remember we went to the back. We got our money. The promoter's name was Harold Bass. We got our money, and then we got out of there. Shane Helms was there with us, supporting us, and I'll never forget. He had like a something he put in his hand, some sort of weapon that would have been like a brass knucks in case anything. And he was standing right by ringside, like had our back. We left, got out of there. That's the only match that I can tell you ever totally broke down, and we didn't finish the match, and it was done.
So the match just stopped
there. I mean, we just the guy got knocked out. Jeff came in and kicked that guy so hard in the temple he was unconscious.
Okay, and the ref.
And like, what are we gonna do?
Right. Wow.
I mean, too, like, it was also a volatile. These guys were like bikers, and we were in front of this biker crowd. Whatever. Like, man, we're done. These guys. This guy was unprofessional. We weren't going to do that anymore. We went back and got our little bit of money, and we got out of there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like being involved in a riot in this place. Who knows?
That is a great story. Glad you shared that here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. That's great. Want to cycle back on a couple things real quick here. You did hitting on the TNA show. You guys did lose the tag team championship, and that's end of a long run for you guys. Had a really great run. How you feeling about all that?
Well, man, it's hard to get to the top, and as they say, it's even harder to stay at the top. So now it looks like we just have to start scratching and clawing and get back up there to the top again and win those titles back. I think that's our goal, and I think you're going to see in some of this. We may even question, like, okay, we had a great run. Was that it? Should that have been our last run, or like where do we go next from here? I think that's going to be kind of part of the story we're telling, and I think it's going to be very, very intriguing when it's all said and done. And I got to tell you, I'm going to, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses. Obviously, we lost that match, but there were a couple scenarios where we had Nick Nemeth beat 2 times. There was a third time that we think we would have had him beat because we went with another move. And I was going to make sure Ryan Nemeth couldn't jump back in the ring and make the save again. Stepped across the referee, and it kind of fumbled her count a little bit too. And it's just one of those things that happens, right? It's live TV shit happens. And then Jeff was going up for that swanton. Right after that, Ryan actually nutted him. And then I saw that Nick gave him a no blow while I was incapacitated on the floor. So there's a lot of storytelling going on that they by any means necessary did whatever they had to do to try and steal those titles from us. But when it was all said and done, they ended up beating us, and right now they're the current champions. And it is myself and Jeff, it is our job to do what we need to do to get ourselves back into a position and win those titles and prove that we are still on this last great final run.
Sounds like you're doing a conversation with Dr. Wolfie.
Yeah, maybe so. Dr. Wolfie brings it out of you. I'll tell you what. And when he finally breaks the case and he finds out what it is, he'll take that pen and slam it into the book.
Yeah.
He took some insane notes. You should have saw the notes he was taking.
I can only imagine what some of those said. Okay, well, it was good to see the kids involved in that segment. I do want to ask you this real quick before we get.
I do. Even before you ask me that, John, I just want to say that the thing with Dr. Wolfie and Ryan, nothing was written down, nothing was suggested. They literally sat down. They sat down and they started improvising, and everything they did was improvisation. We probably needed 60, 80 seconds of content, and they sat there for about 10 minutes, and just Wolfie was nonstop the whole while. He kept throwing out creative stuff and doing things, and it was so funny, man. He is such a performer. Like, following that, he said, he said, "Can I be a pro wrestler and just insult people and get paid for it?" Said, yeah, it's kind of what they do. And he's like, "That's the coolest thing ever."
So when he said, "Did your parents ever hug you?" That was all him?
That was all him, man. And that's why, we were super proud of him, because I told him, I said, "You're going to be doing this. Think about what you want to say." And he does, and he's just he's super creative, and he has no fear about talking shit, whatever. He'll do whatever. So all of that was just on the fly between both of them.
Saw Barty recycled his nacho cheese joke he told here on the Extreme Life. I know Ryan never should have seen that one coming.
Yeah. He that's his go-to joke, man.
That's his go-to. Okay, gotcha. Good to see Gothic Baby's powers are still working too, and she still is on that flow. So I want to ask you this real quick. This has been a really big part of discourse this past week because WWE is teasing that Unreal show that they're putting out, which full on look behind the creative process, and a lot of people have been weighing in. And earlier on this show, we talked about, do you want to reveal the magic trick when all those guys are on the outside fighting and waiting for that spot to happen? How do you feel about peeling back the curtain to that extent? And I think a lot of wrestling fans watch wrestling knowing that what they see is not real, but very much like magic, they like to get lost in the illusion. So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like there is a chunk of the audience that kind of knows what it is, and they almost seem more immersed in the pro wrestling business because they have an idea of, we know this is entertainment. These people are going in a certain direction. They're going for a certain reaction. I think people are always going to be interested in the behind the scenes stuff, which how do you arrive at the idea to have this rivalry happen, or this idea, or this finish, or whatever it may be. So I don't mind it. I think in this day and age, I think it'll be intriguing. And I have no idea how far this show will go. Is it going to go further than anything else has, as far as really revealing the magic trick? I don't know. It will be interesting to see, but I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. I do this podcast every week too, and we kind of share some secrets on here every so often, right? We talk about how to make the donuts and whatnot. So I really don't mind it, and I think it will be an intriguing show, and I'm really curious to see like how far into the process are they going to take us?
Yeah. Oh, I hear one of the biggest pieces of feedback to that is, if you show the barrier being broken down that much, are the characters going to get the responses that you want them to? For example, Braun Breaker destroys Sami Zayn on Raw this week,
Right.
and you're supposed to have all of the sympathy on Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, someone who could be an early contender to win the Royal Rumble next year, main event WrestleMania, fighting for that world championship for the first time, right? But instead, the crowd's going nuts for everything that Braun Breaker's doing because they just think he's so cool. And there's a lot of worry from some people that the more you peel back on that, guys like Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman aren't going to get booed because people just know who these real humans are and the process behind it is. Is there validity to that?
Maybe there is some validity, but there is also a validity to, because people do know who those guys are, and I think especially Seth. People are very familiar with Seth's journey, what he's done, everything else. Seth is a huge star, no doubt about it. And Braun Breaker has quickly elevated himself to being a big star as well. And it'd be a little bit different with Braun. Like, I don't know if you want to open up and kind of share things that might not seem like in his actual television persona that he does, or things that he enjoys, hobbies, whatever else that might not make him seem like this legit badass. Or maybe he is the legit badass the whole while. Maybe they even market him as that in the show. I don't know what direction it's going to go. But one thing I can say is if you can make people care about these characters more, I think it's going to do nothing but help their career. And I think it'll help the whole aspect of the business, because the more you can get people to care about the individuals behind the characters too, I think it's a big positive. It's a big win for everybody. I mean, I still believe, like, just being a great wrestler, people need to care about who you are if they're really going to get emotionally invested in everything you do.
Last thing on the WWE front, saw you and Xavier Woods going back and forth this past week.
Yep.
Anything you want to say about that?
I mean, the New Day, they can get it too, man. The New Day can get it too. I texted, I tweeted him. And we may have text after that, but I did tweet him and actually, said time is a flat circle. We showed up in WWE and the New Day was there, and don't get it twisted. We could definitely show up in WWE again with New Day there, and we might even pull those tag titles off you, especially because we're in need of a tag title right now, because the Hardys need a tag title at all times, because we're proving we're the GOATs.
Is that a match you'd like to have in proper form now?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, we've never done anything, with the New Day in that capacity, like to actually come in and work with New Day, do a program with New Day. I think that is something that is definitely feasible in the future. So that's something that would be exciting to me.
I've said to you that sometimes I worry that if you go to the compound too much, it starts to make it feel a little less special, but the New Day would be freaking fantastic for a compound segment. They would be so good, feeding into everything. I would pay good money to see Barty Hardy dressing down Xavier Woods with some insults. I could be down with that. Sign me up, my friend. Sign me up. Good stuff. Good stuff. We are talking about this SmackDown TLC match that the New Day was not in on this episode of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. But before we can, Matt, I got to ask, please, my friend, hit us with that Matt fact.
Matt fact: Matt digs people that are self-aware.
Painful self-awareness is kind of what I associate myself with. So where'd that one stem from?
No, it just is what it is. It's just so great when you're interacting with people that actually kind of are aware of their surroundings and kind of like what's going on and like what's the deal, like real life, common sense. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's always great, I feel like, because I was having a conversation with someone this morning, actually, when I was like, oh, well, that's, just what they're saying and their perspective on things was very good. So it was enjoyable. And I was just thinking about that. And it's so great when people like kind of know who they are and they know where they fit in, and they're self-aware. They're not afraid to make fun of themselves. They're not afraid to make a joke, whatever. I enjoy it. I dig people that are self-aware.
I think the best performers in wrestling are the self-aware ones,
Sure.
especially on social media. Guys like Drew McIntyre, people like the New Day. You have to be super self-aware in order to succeed, especially if you're a heel, because then it goes into that territory that you always talk about, the lacking the fear of making an asshole of yourself. You have to relinquish that. So I think you're 100% on it.
Yep.
CLP is a perfect example of that.
Oh, he's one of the best. Yeah.
So very much. Chris Jericho is very good at being self-aware too throughout his career historically.
Yep.
So make of that what you will. Okay, my friend, we are going to watch this TLC match in just a couple minutes here, but you're the pro. You're the guy who's put together so many of these. You are the architect, even as you said to Xavier Woods there. You're the guy who's put it all together here. So in a TLC match in 2025, what elements should we be looking out for that's going to make this a successful match?
Just that all teams are doing everything they can to try and get the ladder in a position where all the opposition is down and they are trying to win the match and grab the titles. I think that's the most important thing, that you don't break that motif in the match. You want to make sure your thoughts you get lost in the match. I don't want to see a guy climbing up right by the title and then like, oh, well, here's someone I can win, but I'm going to jump on him, because it's cool to jump on him off something high. You know what I mean? I don't want to break the motif of like everyone in this match is doing everything they can to lay out the opposition so that their team can go up and procure the tag team titles.
Is it harder going into a match like this where the defending champions are baby faces like the Street Profits? Does it affect how you're putting the match together?
I mean, you probably, considering your history with the teams, you probably have some sort of story you're already kind of wanting to lay out, but I don't think it makes a ton of difference. It is when you have these multi-team matches, at least you have plenty of guys to work with. So that's great. There's plenty of guys you can like use for this or that or whatever else. You can have some, a couple guys down while these other guys are up. But also with that same thing being said, you have to make sure all 6 guys are taken care of when you're trying to really focus and highlight on one certain moment or one certain spot.
There are 3 teams in this match: Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, and the Street Profits. All 3 of them full of veterans, especially Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. Does that help a match like this when you're laying it out?
I mean, I'm sure it does. I mean, the more experienced you are, and especially if you are experienced in being in multi-man matches where you have to like have waterfalls, or you have spots where everyone's going to be laid out, or everyone needs to be selling something big because you got to build for this moment. All those guys have experience in those style of matches. I would say, especially the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY, just from their indie stuff, right? And the Street Profits, they're an amazing team. They can fall in there and they can hang with the best. So yeah, I think it was very beneficial to this match that you had 6 guys that were really in the know.
I did say it could be hard to get the baby face in that position as a defending team, but it doesn't need to be that hard, Matt Hardy, because you can get hard automatically with our friends over at Blue Chew. You can have better sex with Blue Chew, friends. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it's going to knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You're going to have to move towns with the amount of noise you're going to be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable form. The combo acts fast, and yes, it does last. Guys, be ready when she needs it, and get your first month of Blue Chew absolutely free. Great sex is just a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you're going to receive your prescription within just days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the United States and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it is all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Matt, there's nothing worse than having to go through a hard table in a TLC match. So why not try to make a good situation out of being hard, right?
You are right. You are absolutely right, John. And I got to tell you, whenever Blue Chew's around, for me, things are looking up. You don't understand how hard it makes Matt Hardy.
Well, you can understand if you simply sign up right here and get your first shipment of Blue Chew absolutely free, just paying $5 shipping. Make life easier by getting harder. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. We got that special offer I just mentioned for you. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code HARDY, emphasis on HARD, add the Y. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code HARDY. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the extreme life of Matt Hardy. Okay, Matt. So we have something so cool here. You are the TLC expert. We're going to break this match down. If at any point you want to pause the match, let me know and we could talk about something. We can break it down, do some tape study here. I want to do this the right way. We are watching the version that is on the WWE YouTube. So if you want to watch with us, you can just cue that up right now. And we're going to get this thing going here in 5.
John, is this the whole match or not?
This is the whole match.
Okay.
So we're going to do this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin. So the match is about to get underway here. Again, Street Profits, DIY, and the Motor City Machine Guns. And we're off DIY, the aggressors, to start here. Any observations that jump off to you? Feel more than free to interject.
Yeah. I mean, I'm good with this start. Just aggressively, guys going after everyone. These things are kind of hard to start, like you're trying to have someone fight and get an advantage to try and get a ladder. That's what we have right here.
And you get the heels doing so.
Yeah.
Motor City Machine Guns, baseball slides, taking them out.
I've seen and experienced that a time or two, time or three.
It's happened. Yeah. Let me know as we watch this if you see any inspiration from any of the matches that you've been involved in. There's one spot that is definitely big inspiration.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
We'll get into that too. It's a weird dichotomy because like you've got DIY who are clearly the heels here. Street Profits are baby faces, but they have this edge to them. And Motor City Machine Guns are baby faces, but we know that they're hot and fiery too. So is that a really difficult thing to manage here when you're laying the match out of like, how are you getting shine on each individual team?
I don't think so. I mean, in these, everyone is gunning for the title. So you want everyone to look good at a certain time. You want to keep that heel in that heel roll. I love this deal, how they had a great shine by the Motor City Machine Guns right there on everyone, and they just went and did their stuff as they were trying to wow the crowd. And now I like this, that now Johnny Gargano had got a chair, introduced it in as being a heel. Like they went to do a great, cool move, a dive out, and he interjected the chair to it.
You got to think how, Jesus, big bounce there from Dawkins. You got to think how hard it is too, Matt, with how many great ladder matches and TLC matches there have been. Like, you have to try to find new ways to do things, or if you're going to take inspiration from something, you have to elevate it and bring it to that next level. That's a big challenge for these teams, especially in the aftermath of WrestleMania weekend. Yeah,
I mean, it's a massive challenge just because it's almost everything has been done. So much has been done when it comes to TLC matches, using a ladder in a way, using a table in a way, using a chair in a way. And you have to really dig deep and be creative to come up with new and fresh and original concepts. So, hats off, because people usually work hard and do. It's a cool spot, even where he's grabbing him in a sleeper and he's trying to still climb up the ladder.
Yeah. I think a lot of times with the Street Profits, Montez Ford shines through because he and Jeff are very similar, right? Montez Ford and Jeff, where they're just so they're an enigma and they're so charismatic and high flying. And I think Dawkins tends to get overlooked sometimes. And I think from what I've seen clips wise from this match, they do a good job at showcasing Dawkins. And so we'll see as this match unfolds if they are successful in doing so, because he's very good too. You and him are very similar in kind of being the meat of the team.
Gotcha. Yep. I mean, once again, the pace that they've started with, I love the fact that they've had guys just working to get up the ladder and like nobody's got up there yet. But other guys are feeding into the ring and they're taking them out. They're trying to beat them up. They're trying to incapacitate all the opposition so you can climb up the ladder and get the titles. That's the goal you always have to work towards in these matches.
Motor City Machine Guns in a bit of control right now. Pretty amazing to see them doing their thing in WWE, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I'm so happy for those guys.
You've known both of them for a long time.
Yeah, I have, and I'm so glad that they, as Broken Matt would call it, I'm so glad that they both got to the great game, and that they're getting a run in WWE.
There you go, Dawkins again. After you saw Ford show a little bit of that athleticism sliding underneath the ladder. Now, what's the logic here, taking the ladder down? I'm not sure I quite understand that.
I think he's taking the ladder down just because they want to incapacitate their opponents more.
Okay.
And just you could maybe even rack it up to, like, I don't mind that at all. Sometimes you need those resets. You could also rack it up, like, in case something happens and your partner isn't, as his partner wasn't there, in case these guys do take back over on you, they don't have the ladder to get up quickly.
Yep, that's fair. It's 2-on-1. All right. Giving the crowd a second to breathe here. More chairs.
There you go.
Tree of Woe. Dawkins.
Yeah, so still in this, like, I'm good with all this because, ladders down. Now they're doing all they can to incapacitate their opponents, so that they can have everybody out, down and out, and they can go up the ladder and get the titles.
Kind of cool seeing Motor City Machine Guns be aggressors here, because as baby faces, you don't see too much of that from them.
Right.
Very creative stuff too with the chairs.
It was good. Yeah, very good spot. I dug all that.
And there's
we going back to the ladder here.
Looks like we need to inflict a little more on Dawkins, perhaps, or are we just taunting him? Let's see.
They were obviously setting up and positioning to do like a trio with drop kicking the ladder into his face.
I see. I really like that because you connected puzzle pieces there. The ladder ends up incidentally in that spot, and DIY is smart enough to say, okay, let's take advantage of it real quick.
Yeah.
And there's Montez Ford being Montez Ford.
Right.
You see, that right there, man, that's a great example of what we talked about earlier in the show, where those guys were all on the outside just actually fighting for position, and then Montez Ford comes out of nowhere, and the camera did not give you a clue that it was happening.
Yeah, it was shot perfectly too. If you notice, the WrestleMania RKO on Joe Henry was shot perfectly too, because they framed up real tight on him, where Randy did. It looked like he came out of nowhere and gave him the RKO.
Yes. That was done very, very well.
All right, so here we go. I love the fact that he did that. Did the big dive. Everybody's down. He's got a ladder. He's going to go in. He's trying to win it. Is this his moment? Does he have everyone incapacitated enough to actually win the match?
Not quite under the belts. Let's see. Okay, now he's moving it. Yeah.
Sometimes you get disoriented in there. Sometimes you get disoriented.
Well, I was about to bring up to you, I did see the table on the outside there, and it's very important, I feel like, as an audience cue. You can't set something like that up on the outside and not use it in the match, because you're using that as a breadcrumb to tell the audience in some form that that's probably going to get used, right?
Yeah, I mean, if something is pre-set up, then there's probably a pretty good chance it's going to happen. Sometimes stuff gets pre-set up and taken down. I've done that where I've taken it down and we've used it in the ring in some capacity. But more often than not, if something is pre-set up out there, it's probably going to be used at some point.
Here's our first. Johnny Gargano, man.
It was nice. Oh, that was done well. I mean, he was up. He was fighting with Ciampa, right? Uh-oh.
I was going to say, this is kind of our first true, like, near fall, per se, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is. So he's up there with his hands on the titles, trying to get them down. Dawkins pulls them down.
Kind of,
but all the execution of everything that we just watched, I thought was top notch.
Kind of the equivalent of a deep 2.
Right. It was a deep 2. And this is a good scenario. We got 2 ladders set up now, so you have multiple men that might try and risk it for the biscuit, as Wolfie would say.
Are you ever worried about something going wrong with the belts? Oh, look at that.
A lot of times. Cool. That was good. A lot of times there is a fear that, just the belt might not be locked in enough or tight enough. Even with when we did the Bound for Glory match, when we did Full Metal Mayhem, they actually put a thing of tape around the title, so we had to rip it a little extra hard. But the worst is if you're up there going to grab it and it comes unbuckled and it
Right.
falls. Obviously it is not supposed to. So yeah, those things can be stressful. But there we go. Got a little crotching. It looks like Chris Sabin, though. Did he block it?
He was like cradling. Yeah, that was really cool. That was very different.
Yeah, it was different. I like that.
That was very cool. And like Ciampa didn't take all the move either, so he's back up with a chair. That was different. I dug that. I mean, you're never gonna out rope crotch Christian Cage, so there's no point in even trying. Holy hell! You see that?
Yeah.
Baseball swing of a chair around the neck? I don't think I've ever seen that. Ooh.
There we go.
So now here, this almost feels like the equivalent of heat in a match. Like the baby face is being decimated by the heels after they cut him off. They use the chairs as the cutoff.
Right.
Some maneuvering. Oh no, Johnny Gargano wants to be a little more. Ooh.
I like that. Maniacal. I like how blatant that was.
A little more maniacal.
Mm-hmm. You got a feeling this might be reversed in some capacity.
Oh, there you go. That was cool. Ford dragging him to the outside. Me thinks that Johnny Gargano is about to eat this, Matt. And there it is. Yeah. Ooh. No way to fake that.
All right, this is good.
Give the crowd a second here to soak it all in.
Yeah, let the crowd digest it. Sometimes you got to let the crowd digest.
Uh-oh. You've seen this before.
That's funny.
A little duel get the tables.
They were both Bubba. Like, get this table. We're going to need that one.
Okay, so yeah, like let's talk about that. So that one, as I was talking about before, probably set up for a reason.
Well,
so they go.
I mean that it just tipped me off because I'm watching with a trained eye, So
no, but I mean that's what I brought up earlier, right? So it's like that does make things a little awkward, but it is something that very few people are actually going to pick up on.
No, I mean most normal people wouldn't blink twice at that,
Here we
That's
go.
if you're just a big student of the game and you've watched a ton of these. There we go.
Holy moly. That was like a diving doomsday. Wow. Let's see this one more time here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People look like they were in position enough there.
Yeah, no, everybody's execution was really good on that. That was a dive into a half-ass blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of like senton the guy down off the shoulders.
It's like a blockbuster doomsday device. Tell me what the point of that little triple down there was with all three teams.
I mean, I think they were just looking to get an exciting spot in there, away from the ring. I did see the clip. I see the guy out there with the prosthetic leg. Yeah, I saw that on social media that it got used, which was funny. Yeah.
Adding a new element to TLC.
Ooh. There you go. Yeah.
Ooh. We have a ladder.
I think too, like that ladder on the guardrail there, like that's one of those things you have to be very careful about too, especially with like the ladder possibly going into the crowd, whatever else. Those things can be dangerous. I hope there's like maybe security over there, whatever. That's something you have to always be mindful for in these situations. Even like if you're like if a ladder breaks and you throw it out of the ring or whatever, these objects are big and you just have to make sure to try and not hurt anybody in the crowd.
Yeah. All right. Dawkins on that table we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's something different. Don't see
Yeah.
that too often.
Yeah, that was unique.
Stacking a table on a ladder and throwing someone into the
Yeah,
side of the table.
just the way he did it too was so unorthodox, where it was upside down. Threw him into it to knock him down. Oh, fix your legs there. There we go.
There you go. See, that was a great point. I didn't even see that.
Mm-hmm.
Because also with how like a table breaks, and you've talked about this before, shards can go in different directions. Like you got to be making sure that everything is proper.
Right. There you go. Well, that's the table that they were talking about moving, and they're like, brother, you can't move that. That's ultimately your table.
All right. Montez Ford. We've seen him do 2 big dives to the outside in this one. We're looking at a third here.
Mm-hmm. One thing I think is good there is, well, I take that back now. I was going to say at least the ladder, they're diving out of the ring. At least the ladder is well out of position to get the titles with where it's at in the ring right now.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, I would like to have that ladder down if you're like diving out at a later stage of the game like this, but I'm okay because it is well out of position to.
Why would you like it down?
Just because I feel like just a ladder up in the ring, it could easily entice someone to like move it over and try and win. And right now they're doing big spots where they're trying to eliminate people from the match altogether and have them be done and like have them be out for the remainder of the time.
Do you think we're at the exit stage right now in this match?
Yeah, I think you have guys right now that are getting taken out for the remainder of the match with these dives through tables.
I was
you might have one of them like rise from the dead or whatever, but I think we're at that stage of the game right now.
Okay. So that would be Ciampa first. Gargano in the ring now with Montez Ford. No, there's Ciampa back up now. Should he have been selling longer?
Did Ciampa, which table did he go through?
He went through that one just on the outside that Montez Ford just did that con hilo to the outside on.
It's interesting that he is up pretty quickly.
Well, that might be a way to get Montez Ford out of that match. Yeah. Yikes. Again, if you set something up, someone's got to go through it.
Jeff was the first guy to ever break a ladder. That was initially our concept when it happened with Edge.
You're telling them to shave the ladder down and like have a break in it?
To break a ladder like that, you have to definitely have the ladder half-ass broken, or it won't go. I mean, if you would just do that, it would bend some, but it would destroy both guys too.
You know a thing or two about being half-ass broken.
Yeah, I do know a thing or two about being half-ass broken.
All right, let's see if Montez Ford is actually out of the match or not. There we go.
DDT.
Yeah, he's teasing it.
Oh, what a great counter.
This is shot really well, too, because I like that the camera is at the same level as the table and it's shooting up and it's showing the impending doom that could be. Whoa, look at this.
Yeah.
Standing on a table.
Oh, here we go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Got to hope that table doesn't break when you're on it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could see Chris Sabin was walking on eggshells.
Very delicate.
His little step, waiting to that last second where he's about to hit before he even tries to like lay out with him.
Perfectly timed.
As soft as he could.
All right. So that potentially takes Gargano out of the equation.
Mhm.
Motor City Machine Guns reeling. I think, Matt, all three teams have been given a chance to shine in this match.
No, they have. They have. It's everybody. Everybody's been highlighted very nice. Everybody has done some cool stuff.
Ciampa, center of the ring. He's the only one who's touched those belts in this match so far. There again. Uh-oh.
Oh, indeed.
Some good upper body strength there.
Yeah, it's not crazy easy to hold on up there.
That's a cool feat of strength. They just hit him with the chairs and he wouldn't drop. So they're setting up the table, and I think we know what's about to happen here, Matt.
Yeah, I think we do.
Angelo Dawkins at the top. Boom.
Very cool.
How do you-
Switch it up a little bit.
How do
Spear
you
down through the
feel?
table.
How do you feel about the homage to Edge and Brother Nero there?
I mean, it's great. Always flattering and humbling when, guys kind of shout out some of the original TLC concepts from the forefathers. It's nice.
Break me through the mechanics of that real quick there. The table was set up long ways when they went through it, which is not typically how you see guys go through a table in a situation like that. Do you think that was on purpose for a reason?
Yeah, just because just depending on how the spear happened, they could have went a little further, a little shorter, whatever else, just to make sure that there was table there to catch them, to break, to actually hit the table and break it.
That's pretty impressive by Ciampa for how long he was able to hang up there.
Yeah. I mean, it was he's got good shoulders, I guess. Good working shoulders. I like it.
Gargano's back in the match, Matt.
Gargano is back, yeah.
So not
they've done some big bombs and brought people back.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I can't hate on it. It's a new time. It's a new day, and you got to do different things, new things. So it is what it is. I can't after all the insane stuff Jeff and I have done, I certainly can't criticize. It is what it is. I'm glad they're just still taking as much time as they possibly can to sell and make things mean something, just not dropping it, no selling it.
Chris Sabin and Johnny Gargano at the top here. If you were to tell people a decade ago that Johnny Gargano and Chris Sabin would be in a WWE Tag Team Championship match on SmackDown,
yeah,
not a whole lot of people would believe that. Look at this.
Yeah.
Tez leaping on, doing the Shelton Benjamin spot.
Yeah, that's always a great spot.
And is that it? No. Oh boy. Very unique setup for a super kick there.
I love that they did a deal like that where Jeff trapped Adam in the match and ended up being finished, which was great.
Maybe an homage to that potentially.
Possibly so. It's something that does exist, something that has happened before in past. Time is a flat circle. Oh, here we go.
Tez climbing up through the ladder to the side, meeting of the minds. My goodness.
That's a great visual, and I'm glad they did it that way too. So he's on, where there's a camera that can get his face.
Dude, the margin for error for that was so thin. And there you go.
There we go. That's got to be
the Street Profits.
The whole thing.
It's a smart play. The Street Profits win the TLC match, Matt.
Good stuff.
Man, yeah. So let's talk about this here. I mean, what are you thinking watching that?
It was good. I thought it was a really strong. I thought it was psychologically done well. I'm a fan. I thought it had a ton of great action. I see what received so much praise. It was a very, very good match. They did well. really, they really laid out everything within the common parameters. It was exciting. There had moments where it was teased. There were some good false finishes. It had so much athleticism. It has their style of wrestling too, which, or the dives and more high impact stuff. And everybody took some big bombs, and it was creative, man. I thought it was all done very well.
Sorry about that. Froze up there real quick. But yeah, I thought it was done super well as well. Did anyone stand out more than any of the others to you? Any thoughts on that?
No, I think they did a great job of like making all the performers. I think all the teams, I think they all stood out. They all had their moments. And I think being in a match like that elevates all three teams.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Should this match have been on WrestleMania, Matt, especially after what we talked about last week when we were reviewing the show?
I mean, yeah, I would have been super cool with this match being on WrestleMania, and I almost don't know why you don't pull the trigger on a match like this, because I think just having this match on WrestleMania, if they had that exact same match on WrestleMania, I think it elevates all three teams even more. It makes them like all more legendary, right? If that would have been on WrestleMania, but it is what it is. I don't know what their reasoning was behind it for holding on and doing it live at SmackDown. Maybe they specifically wanted to try and showcase them more and thought more people would see it, or I don't know. I don't know what the motivation was, but it would definitely fit on WrestleMania, and it would have been a great WrestleMania classic match, I think. But regardless, I'm just happy we got the match all together.
Me too. It would have been one of the strongest matches, if not the strongest match on WrestleMania had we seen it. I thought they combined all the elements of a modern ladder match really well with some nice homages to some of the stuff of the past. How do you think that holds up in comparison to, say, TLC 2 or TLC 1?
I think it. I mean, I think it does. It's great. It's in the conversation of just a fantastic, extremely memorable TLC match. And I saw Bubba was putting it over earlier, and I hadn't seen it yet, but I knew if Bubba's putting it over that it was good, that it was solid. So that gave me a lot of confidence, because I think him and I, we view stuff with a lot of the same mindset. I'm pretty positive, even though we think a little differently, maybe from who we are as a character in the pro wrestling business. I think we were able to look at things from the outside, and we're pretty similar in how we view things.
Matt Hardy's giving them a golf clap.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
All right. We love to hear it. Love to hear it. Good stuff. Really cool listening to you break down that match. And shout out to all three of those teams who I think are fantastic, and really cool to see Motor City Machine Guns having a run at the top in WWE after so many years, just gutting it out, grinding it out in the industry.
100%.
Now they are where they are. And shout out to the Street Profits, man. They're there right now. So good stuff all around. And it's always good stuff here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. So check us out, advertisewithhardy.com. Promote your business to the extreme. Get it out in front of thousands of listeners and viewers every single week. That is advertisewithhardy.com. Matt, anything else you want to add for the Die Hardys?
Oh, man, just for all the diehardies there that are up at 6 a.m. and you're listening at 6:02 a.m., maybe you chimed in on the live a couple minutes later, whatever, or you watched the podcast a couple minutes after it debuted. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Thank you for supporting myself and John, and we hope you enjoy this. We plan on giving it to you for a very long time going forward. And for everyone else that is out there, thank you for supporting myself and Jeff, and we want to continue to have your support as we work to climb back up on top of the tag team mountain for wrestling.
The words have been spoken. We'll see you next time right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.